Don't worry, I'll save you. Christian Army Unite!
We will help
For the love of God
and forgiveness of sins.
and direct acceptance to heaven.
Yay! We will fight back for the love of Allah, Allah, and the Holy Land, Jerusalem. Let the Crusades commence! Hello, didn't see you there. I'm Kira McDougall, and I'm here to talk to you about the Crusades. 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 The Crusades were a series of religious wars between the Christians and Muslims for control of the Holy Lands, or Jerusalem, fought during 1095 to 1291. It started as a result of three main causes: the Seljuk Turks, feudalism, and Christian pilgrimage.
That's right, Kira. Your Christian pilgrimage to the Holy Land, aka Jerusalem, was a way to repay your sins and earn indulgences by fighting. These were the acts of Christian love and piety that gained back land for the Christians, the Byzantine Empire, and well, they tried to gain power of Jerusalem, but we also saw how that worked out. Not exactly the outcome the Pope was hoping for.
Now previously, Christians made their pilgrimages in peace until the Holy Lands were taken over by the Seljuk Turks. They were Persian Muslims who prohibited Christians on their land. Christians could no longer make their holy pilgrimage, which was very important to their religion. 3,000 Christians were massacred in the Holy Lands, and the rest had little to no rights. The churches in the Holy Lands were also burned or made into stables, destroying the holy significance of God.
The other major cause of the Crusades was the European feudalism, which was a type of government that was not centralized. Lords had all the power and were protected by the knights from the Vikings, who previously had been terrorizing Western Europe. With no one to fight, the restless knights and lords were eager to start a war for new lands and trade.
Hey guys! I was really wondering more about the Crusades. Can you tell me?
Well, of course. Okay, so before we gave you a gruesome backstory as to why there was a bit of tension between the Christians and the Muslims. But in all honesty, the Crusades began due to the Christians. Emperor Alexius Comnenus of the Byzantine Empire called for help from the Pope when the Seljuk Turks were attacking his empire of the Christians. Pope Urban II asked for Christian men to fight in the name of God to gain back all the land they had lost and to gain control of Jerusalem from the Muslims. How'd they do it, Kira?
Well, in one speech the Pope delivered in France in 1095, he said to the people, "You common people have been miserable sinners, become soldiers of Christ. You nobles, do not quarrel with one another. Use your arms in a just war. Labor for everlasting reward." He uses heaven and God as a major incentive and rationale for the reason the people should fight. What else happened, Wyatt?
Also, his insane hatred for the Muslims played a role in the way he manipulated people to fight. He said that a race from the kingdom of Persians, an accursed race, a race wholly alienated from God, a generation that sent their heart aright and whose spirit was not steadfast with God, violently invaded the lands of those Christians and had depopulated them by pillage and fire.
The invalid description of the Muslims was another reason the Christians believed the Crusades were a justified war. When Jesus Christ summons you to his defense, let no base affection detain you in your homes. Whoever will abandon his house, or his father, or his mother, or his wife, or his children, or his inheritance, for the sake of my name, shall be recompensated 100-fold, and possess life eternal, said Pope Urban II, and he used God as his rationale to fight the Muslims. In the First Crusade, the Christians won control of Jerusalem. Nobles and knights from Western Europe marched all the way to Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire. The Christians, often referred to as the Crusaders, battled for 5 weeks in Jerusalem. Isn't that right, Nina?
But then, in the Second Crusade, the Christians lost control of Jerusalem. The Muslims gained back control. The Second Crusade was an attempt to further secure the Holy Lands from the Muslims, spotted near the territory.
The Third Crusade was the Crusaders' reply to their loss of the Holy Lands. It ended with a treaty between Richard the Lionhearted and Saladin. It was agreed that Christians could pilgrimage to the Holy Lands unharmed, but Muslims still had control of Jerusalem.
There are a few other feeble attempts Christians made to control the Holy Lands. All failed miserably.
What happens next? That's a great question, little girl. Other than killing several million people, the Crusades had long-term effects that we still experience repercussions of today. First, the effects on Europe. The Crusaders actually had to pay for their own journey to Jerusalem to fight. This was extremely expensive, and to afford the journey, many men had to mortgage their property and borrow money. Loans from the church could not charge interest due to policies of usury. However, the loans from the banks did take interest, which led to the wealthier middle class and the establishment of the first credit institutions. The growth of the middle class also stimulated the economy and led to the establishment of guilds, the end of feudalism in Europe, growth in towns, urbanization, etc. Other economic changes occurred because of the cultural blending between the Europeans and the Muslims. During their time in the Middle East, the Crusaders acquired a taste for spices as well as a demand for Arabian goods. The growth in trade also led to the growth of the middle class, especially merchants. This increased the demand for goods and also led to a new era in global navigation. Explorers such as Diaz de Gama, Magellan, and Columbus made huge headway while trying to find more effective trade routes. The effect on the Islamic community, however, did not benefit them as it did in Europe. Europeans left their mark on the Holy Land and established feudal-style estates across Jerusalem. They also constructed churches in place of mosques, as well as other structures. The most famous church built during Christian rule is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. After the original Crusades, many weak attempts followed. There are up to 10 Crusades recorded. Also, following the Crusades was the Spanish Inquisition.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
Well, we kind of did. The Spanish Inquisition was yet another result of the religious zeal and intolerance that began during the Crusades. The Crusades also created an animosity towards Christians throughout the Muslim community. This mistrust is still seen today. President Bush's use of the word crusade in his address after 9/11 caused an outrage in the Muslim community. He said,
This crusade, this war on terrorism, is going to take a while.
The Crusades developed a religious intolerance in both Christian and Muslim communities.
True love.